Joe Hendry has quickly become one of the most popular wrestlers on the planet. To be honest with you guys, a month ago I had no idea who this guy was. I just kept on seeing his face on Twitter, but eventually ended up diving into some of his content, and what I found is a star in the making. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the rise of Joe Hendry and his potential to become the next big thing in wrestling. Do you believe in Joe Hendry? One of the first clips I saw of Joe Hendry was him in TNA.
You are banned from diving. You are banned from diving.
There is absolutely no way. You gotta be kidding me. I guess there's a reason he doesn't do that often.
The first thing you notice about him is, wait, this dude can actually sing.
Can you please get fired? 'Cause it's happened twice before.
We've seen tons of musical acts in wrestling, for example Elias, but Joe Hendry is on a completely different level. The way he incorporates music into his feuds is something I've never seen before. Diving into this past, you find out that Joe Hendry has been a musician for over 10 years, and his band was actually close to signing a deal with Sony Music.
I was doing music at the time, and the band I was playing in had picked up quite a bit of steam to the point where we were having this meeting in the Sony building on Madison Avenue. And it's weird because music was a secondary dream for me, because I actually didn't believe I was big enough to be a wrestler, believe it or not.
Joe Hendry has a master's degree in business and marketing, which is important to note. Following university, Joe Hendry wasn't sure of what to do with his life. However, at the age of 25, he made the decision to become a pro wrestler and put 100% of his efforts into wrestling.
On January 1st, 2013, that's when I started training. It was a New Year's resolution. I was like, as of tomorrow, you are a pro wrestler. I wasn't very happy with the way that life was going.
His journey began in Scotland, with him eventually finding himself in the UK independent scene, with most of his time being spent at the promotion ICW. During this time, you saw the foundation of what he would eventually become. He'd make parody music videos on popular songs and use them to enhance his feuds. I have to be honest, some of them are honestly pretty cringe, but some of them are also pretty good as well. And like I said, this was early on in his career, and he eventually got better and better at it, and we got to the level where we're at today.
There are times where you just feel like you can't get that dream to the next level, and so you're in this battle and this struggle to prove yourself. And then when a company goes, forgive the pun, we believe in Joe Hendry, it's quite shocking. It's like, oh, I'm not used to being booked this way. This is fun, but scary and cool.
One of Joe Hendry's first big breaks came when he wrestled Kurt Angle at WCPW Refuse to Lose in 2016. Now, Kurt Angle is one of the most recognizable names in wrestling. Him choosing to come to WCPW in the first place is kinda wild, but wrestling Joe Hendry of all people is even wilder. Hendry explains how he got the match.
In 2015, someone tagged me and said, who's your dream match? And I said, Kurt Angle, and I tagged him. So Kurt Angle DMs me, and he goes, look, I know who you are. You're not ready for it yet, but maybe one day we'll wrestle. I'd heard through the grapevine What Culture had tried to book Kurt, but he'd said no. And then I thought, wait a second. And I went, Kurt, if I could get a financier to do the match, would you do it? And he went, this is what I need, business class flight or whatever what it was. And I thought, to hell with it, you only live once. And I actually marched into the What Culture office, and these guys are multi-millionaires. And I went, okay, I demanded a meeting with them, and I went, did you try to book Kurt Angle? And they went, yeah. And I was like, what did he say? And they went, oh, he said no. And I went, I can get Kurt Angle. But if I can get Kurt Angle, I wrestle him, and I'm now the top guy. Deal? And they were like, all right. And then we shook hands on it. And then because of that, I got to wrestle Kurt Angle on a pay-per-view with Jim Ross and Jim Cornette commentating when I had started training in 2013, and this was 2016. So as you can imagine, my face was just exploding with pressure.
This story exemplifies the key themes I've noticed when it comes to Joe Hendry. One of them is pure determination, and the other is timing. He signed with Impact Wrestling in 2018 and later ROH, but his initial run with both companies didn't go too well. He didn't win any championships, and while some of his segments are entertaining, he didn't move the needle for either company in the same way we're seeing him do now. He he wasn't a main focus of either of the programs. In 2020, something happened that completely changed Joe Hendry's perspective on everything. What happened in 2020, you ask? Well, COVID, of course.
When COVID came along, it took wrestling away from me for such a long period of time.
COVID was a hard time for everyone, but pro wrestlers were especially hit pretty hard. Pro wrestling is a contact sport, and obviously during COVID it was a no contact time period, so a lot of them were out of work, and that included Joe Hendry. Hendry, however, saw this as an opportunity to improve himself.
Having wrestling taken away from me, it forced me to have an increased gratitude for it, and an increased gratitude for the opportunities as well. And I remember fans were making me in the video games, and I was playing the video game, and I was like, I can't pick myself, I'm too boring. And I was like, all right, so what would I need to do to make myself an exciting action figure? And so I would want to play as myself in the video game. And yeah, I literally just got one of the video games. I made myself. I made new wrestling gear. I dyed my hair bleach blonde because I felt that made me stand out a bit more.
It's crazy that that's what sparked his transformation. Like, just comparing yourself to an action figure and be like, would I really play with myself? Which is, again, a crazy statement. Following COVID, he returned to Impact Wrestling in 2022 with an entirely new look and fresh feel to him. He also took steps to improve his in-ring ability, taking inspiration from wrestlers he watched back in the 90s.
You can't have a fallaway slam as a finisher. So I just decided, I started watching wrestling again as a fan, and I'd never really watched, wrestling in like the mid-90s that much. I was much later than that. But I just saw Psycho Sid and Scott Steiner and, like early Goldberg, and I was like, yeah, let's do that.
Okay, now to answer the question that's the title of this video. Why did Joe Hendry become so popular all of a sudden? Well, recently in 2023, Hendry, with the assistance of his brother, used social media to boost his wrestling career to new heights. Similar to what Zack Ryder did in 2013, but with actual support from management.
Most recent wave of popularity, a lot of it is, there is luck involved, but a lot of it was calculated. So for example, my brother quit his job at McDonald's. He was like, can't take it anymore. And he was editing for me like part-time. And I was just like, well, I guess you're a full-time video editor. I guess we better find something for you to do. So we were feeding these videos into the algorithm, and then fans saw them and started to make them. We just wanted to make enough so that the fans would get it and start to make them themselves. The other example is I have like a toolkit of a bunch of things that I know will get a reaction. So anytime someone tweets me and they're like super pissed off, like, I hate this guy, he's just, all he does is turn around, and then I will retweet them with a no context picture of my grinning face, and that seems to get a big reaction as well.
Hendry to me is a marketing genius. Like I said earlier, my first exposure to him was the memes, and that sort of got me invested into who is this guy, why is his face on my screen right now. Like, it's so smart. The same thing applies with the billboards at Clash of the Castle. Someone driving along will see that face and wonder, who the hell is that?
President Putin couldn't be more proud.
Okay, and with all of that, we've made it to today, where Joe Hendry made his debut on NXT a couple days ago. We're in a new era of wrestling where the WWE is becoming more and more open to working with other promotions. Most recently, the company has begun a working relationship between TNA and the developmental NXT brand, with wrestlers crossing back and forth between the two promotions. The most notable ones being TNA Women's Champion Jordynne Grace, and of course the man himself, Joe Hendry. His arrival in NXT caused an explosion on social media, where the video of him debuting now has over 100,000 likes on Twitter, making it the second most liked video for the WWE since WrestleMania, which is pretty crazy. The insane reaction he got at the Performance Center truly shows the power of social media, because I can guarantee you that a majority of the people there, like me, first got exposure to Joe Hendry through social media and not TNA television. With that being said, you have to give a lot of credit to TNA, man. They're pushing Joe Hendry relentlessly. They obviously gave him the Digital Media Championship, and they're allowing him to do all of this stuff with WWE. Like, shout out to TNA for being so open. It's incredible to see what they've been doing.
So if you really look at my Twitter, I'm having fun, and then it starts planting ideas and seeds, and they can become I've realized in wrestling, that's how all this stuff has happened, is me just like having fun with potential narratives that could take place, and then look, one of them just happened.
Now that he's debuted at NXT, the question is, what's next for Joe Hendry? I'm honestly not too sure. He seems to truly love what he's doing with Impact right now, But it's undeniable that with his growing popularity that the WWE will look to sign him after his contract with Impact expires. What do you guys think is next for Joe Hendry, man? Do you think we're gonna see him on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown soon?
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, subscribe to the channel. Again, we're on the road to 2,000 subscribers.
America, Scotland, and Canada, and Mexico. They say, I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
Now that the main video is over, I have a few additional thoughts. His appearance in NXT wasn't actually his first time being on WWE programming. That came 10 years later during this promo segment with Rusev. Hendry recounts the story of how he pretty much stole the role from someone else.
What actually happened, they hired someone specifically for the role, but whichever referee it was got confused and didn't know this. So a referee came up to me and says, bring your red tie tomorrow. He was like, where are my Russians at? Have you got the red tie? And I was like, oh, that must be me. And he's like, where are my Russians at? And I put my hand up. And there was actually a guy behind me who had been paid specifically to do the job, who had shaved his head for the role. Like, so, and I ended up taking his spot, but I didn't know it till after.
The Kremlin is overjoyed with your heroic progress in America and here in the United Kingdom.
I feel bad for that guy who lost their role on TV just like that. But it's kind of hilarious that it worked out that way. Horrible Russian accent though, man. I don't. If you're Russian, give him a rating. I'm pretty sure you're gonna say it's bad though. It's weird to think that a lot of the wrestlers that we see today have appeared in WWE programming before. Like a random bodyguard that you see on Monday Night Raw could be the next WWE champion a few years from now. Like we've seen that with CM Punk, we've seen that with Braun Strowman, Becky Lynch, LA Knight. So I don't know, it's all super interesting to me. So yeah, that was my deep thought for this video. Yeah, it's gonna take me a while to edit. I'm just realizing as I'm recording this, but hopefully it works out and the video is entertaining for you guys. Bye.